Okay, so hello and
Hey.
hello to everyone. Hello to June. So glad that you could join in tonight. Um, I am just adjusting some screen things here. And if you just give me a minute, I do not know why that is not moving. So I'm just going to leave that alone. And okay, so good to be here. It's so good to have an audience to share this information with. I'm really looking forward to uh helping you come along in this, providing an opportunity to feel more comfortable and confident in your intuitive skills. And I really hope that this will help you that way and that you'll practice this because it does take practice. It takes a lot of practice. I'm still growing mine. Everybody is still growing. I mean, it's vast where we can go with this. And it's super exciting. I love it. I mean, I'm always kind of listening to what's going on and want to hear because I would rather hear my intuition and my guidance rather than rely on my intellectual brain. Yeah, I've come to feel more confident in that than what my brain or memory has in it, which is, as I get older,
Mm.
it's certainly not wonderful these days for sure. So, welcome to this class on intuition and psychic skill building. I want to mention that really science has not figured out how intuition works, but they can't explain it. And so, therefore, it doesn't have the credibility that it deserves. But we know it works. Um, and it and we use it primarily to help us make better decisions. So, we live in a world where we are super, these days, especially bombarded with all kinds of information. And now we've got AI and all kinds of technological information coming in. We've got, cell towers and the G effect, the 5G effect and higher.
Mm.
It's we're so bombarded with so much that we're receiving that it's really necessary to connect with our intuition. So it helps us live more of our true self. And, um, we all, I don't think I've ever met a person that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to many over the years, that hasn't either gotten a hunch or a vibe or a gut feeling. I mean, we talk about gut feelings, doctors talk about it, scientists talk about it. So even though they don't want to really admit it, it does have its place. But we know it has more than just a place because we all have intuitive experiences. The question is, do you use it or do you ignore it? And I can't say I listen 100% of the times. There have been times that I have really either not trusted it or walked away from it, or just more than anything, allowed my mind, my intellectual mind, to overwrite it and listen to that part of me instead. And I've got to say, I am always sorry I do that when I do, looking back. So many years ago, gosh, now I don't even remember how many, but it could be close to 30 something, 35 probably. Um, I used to work in real estate and I was a manager of a very large office. I had 30 something realtors under me. And we would have our weekly meeting. And after the weekly meeting, I would let people know that we had a half an hour before we would go out and look at our houses. And that I would help everybody learn how to use their intuitive skills so that they could use it in their real estate. And I had quite a large handful of people want to come, because anything that you can tell realtors that they're going to get for free and that it's going to make them get a sale or allow them to get a sale, they're going to show up for that. I guarantee it. So I would teach them, and people were really surprised that they could literally use it in their work. And now I used to teach at lunch and learns for corporate businesses and all kinds of companies, and I would teach this. So, it's I love turning people on to this, especially when they don't know a lot about it, and or they're not comfortable with it, or they have a lot of questions. I really try to, rest that and just help people to trust. So it's about receiving the impulse and knowing what that vibe is. So, for me, I use it for testing food. When I move to a place, and I've told this to many people, when I know I'm going to move again from a location or maybe wanting to go to a place, I'll put my hands over my eyes and I get the map out and I go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And wherever the finger feels drawn to, that's where I've moved. Now, that might say, like, wow, you're strange, but it has worked for me many, many times. And so I trust that vibe. I trust it so much. So when I do energy on a person, I can run my finger close to their energy and feel where there are different imbalances in that. So the vibe, when you're tuned into it, it talks to you. It's just a matter of tuning in and learning what that really feels like. So it's a way that it communicates, and it is a communication, but it's a communication not through actually what we verbally hear, that kind of communication, or what we're actually reading in a book or something. It's another type of communication. And the most intuitive body part is your heart. That's why we're always saying drop into your heart. The heart is going to lead you, and it does lead you. And the heartbeat is the communication. And what is interesting is that your inner ear actually picks up the signals that the heartbeat puts out. And so there's this connection. And so, like I play the Native American drum, and that is the heartbeat of the earth. Certain beats bring about this heartbeat, and it causes us to come into this certain resonation and this certain connection. And what's interesting is your heart meridian is your entire second brain. So the whole meridian is. And coming from a quantum perspective, the heart is wave energy that is a wave, that energy, that particles that shift, that want to shift in when they aren't being observed, they go into the heart energy wave. And that's where they kind of, I'll say that I'll use this word, where they hang out, where they're observed or noticed. And our intuition exists in our heart. It's where we hear the inner voice of our true intention. So when in doubt, go to the heart, go to your intuition. So we're conditioned through society, through thousands and thousands of years, not to listen. And this starts from a very, very young age, because we call it imagination. But yes, the intuition uses imagination, and that's the whole idea. So we get a hit about something, right? And then what we're conditioned to do is we have to go ask somebody for their approval, or in order to trust this hit. So like, hey, what do you think? Or I'm going to go, to this tarot reader, or I'm going to go here to find out if that was really real. Well, that's interesting, but you give away your power when you do that. So what if you were to just take a little piece of that information and just hold on to it and say, I'm going to trust this no matter what. Now, do it with a small thing so that it doesn't feel uh, difficult or scary. You don't want to have any of that kind of emotion attached to it. You just want to condition your own self to be able to receive the information and then to go ahead and practice and use it. So it will signal in the gut. And the reason is because it's connected to the vagus nerve, which is the parasympathetic nerve, and it runs through the face, the throat, the heart, and down into the gut. So it's all the way. And, this is interesting. I'll just share a little story with you. So I was getting ready to buy a house, and we were going to closing that morning. I think it was around 10, 11 o'clock. I got up in the morning and I had this most uncomfortable feeling. And as I talk about it right now, I've got goosebumps. It's really funny because I got up and this uncomfortable feeling wouldn't leave me alone. And I know when that happens, I know what that's about. And I just said to my husband, we can't go to that closing. And he looks at me like, are you kidding me? What are you talking about? We can't go to the closing. I said, nope, we can't buy that house. It's not right. I'm getting a signal. And that's a big deal, right? I mean, that's not like we're talking about a parking space. We're talking a big thing to trust, But I knew it. I knew it inside of myself. And when you know something, you just know it. Whatever way it comes in, it can come in numerous ways, and I'm going to talk about that in a little while. You've got to trust it, but then you also have to take action. So it's like the trust is a part of the action. You have to take the action in order to show yourself you're trusting this. This sets up more capability of this communication. So it's a very important synchronicity. So the mind does not differentiate between reality and imagination. And so this is an interesting thing. Like when you go to sleep, if you fall asleep with the TV on, or you're reading a book and you fall asleep with it, that's right in your consciousness, right then and there. And then it goes into your subconsciousness, and your mind cannot tell if that's reality or not. So I do this real simple thing because sometimes I'll watch a show or whatever it is, just to kind of relax for the evening for an hour or so before I go to bed. And if there's something, maybe it was disturbing, maybe it was emotional, whatever it is, right? And I know it's having some kind of an effect on me. What happens is I'll tell myself when I go to bed and I lay down and I'm just getting comfortable, and I say to myself, what I was just watching that was disturbing me, I am telling myself this is not real. This was not really happening in my life. This was entertainment, and that's all it was. So I'm not accepting this in as reality. And then I just go to sleep. It works for me. And you might try it too if something disturbing happens like that for you. So everything it's important for us to pretend everything, in other words, because it all comes in through our imagination and reality. And as the mind does not decipher between the two, then everything you think, see, feel, know, it's all coming in one way or another, and it is real. And that's why I tell myself that before I go to bed, because I want myself to know this is not real and I do not want it to have an effect on me. And the reason I say this is because it's in the quantum field. And now I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the quantum field because we could write and speak volumes about the quantum field. There's so much about it, and it's intriguing, fascinating. There's so much to know. I work in the quantum field, but there's a lot to understand about it. So I don't want to take the time to go into this. But what I'm getting at is that in the quantum field, it's just a different resonance. That's all. Imagination, reality, Intuition, it's just a different resonance, a different vibe. It's resonating just different than what you and I are talking right at this very minute. So I want to get into the three basic kinds of intuition and the triggers of intuition. So the first one I like to think of as what we call the positive vibe. It's the yes vibe. It feels very positive. You can just tell when something feels really good, and it's not like it feels emotionally good. That's a separate experience in you. It's like your body feels it. You have this experience of, like, if somebody said, would you like to go fill in the blank, right? And you get this sense of, like, yes, because something good is going to happen there. You can feel it, you experience it. Maybe viscerally you experience it. Whatever way you're experiencing, you get this positive vibe. And what happens is, in that, it's slowing down our inner chatter, our chatter of our intellectual mind. It is always going. There's always a thought, one that follows another, another, and so on down. But that chatter, it sabotages us too. So if we get a positive vibe, we could tell it, I don't want to trust that. Or we could say, oh, that feels good. I'm going to follow that. I'm going to follow that lead, because it's about the brain waves, and it's about getting out of the beta, coming into the alpha, allowing that hit to come in. And this is how we're training ourselves to affirm, so that we experience and have these experiences more often, so that we open ourselves up, so that we can be in the intellectual mind. But when something comes in, it's it's like this. We get the hit, we get the hunch, we get the feel, and one part of it is positive. Now, so I want to do a little exercise. And I think this is a kind of a really proven exercise. So if you would just bear with me, this is an exercise to get you into the alpha. So most people will say, well, how do I get there? Because I'm not always there, right? Because we're usually in the beta brainwave, right? Which is a certain a certain movement. But we want to get into this different movement. So put the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth. And it might be easy to close your eyes for a few moments for this exercise. So put the tip of your tongue on the roof of your mouth, not the little V by your teeth, but the roof of your mouth. And I want you to envision the number 3. And I want you to, at the same time, I want you to say it internally 3 times. So allow it to flash 3 and say 3. And again, 3 and it flashes. And again, 3 and it flashes. But don't move your tongue. So you're saying this internally. Then you're going to do the number 2. Flashes 2, say internally 2. Flashes 2, say 2. Flashes 2, say 2. Then you're going to do 1. See the number 1, flash, and then say 1. See 1, and then say 1. See 1, and say 1. Now, during this time, breathe in again, deep breath in, and watch how your shoulders just relax. Can you see? Can you feel them relax down? Now, what you've done is you've stopped the chatter of your mind, and you are moving into the alpha. So now you're in more of a quiet, receptive place to have a dialogue, to ask a question, to receive the signals, and allow those senses to start hearing through these senses. Now, what's interesting, what I love about that, is you can do that anywhere. If you're at a job, You can excuse yourself if you want. You can go to the bathroom. If you're in the car, not driving, you can do it in the car. You can do it anywhere. And you'll get good enough at it that you can do it with your eyes open and still be able to see that number flash in front of you. And when you do, take that breath, relax down, and you are in a different brainwave. Now, if you want to use that to go off to do a meditation, just stay in that and allow yourself to do what you do to be in your meditation. But you've already got the beginnings there. So, how did you like that, June? Was that comfortable for you?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Good and easy to do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Good, good. Okay. All right. So, now there's another intuitive exercise, or not exercise, but part of us. So, like I said, there were three parts. This part is the part that warns us about things that are dangerous for us. So we don't want to get rid of that. That exists in what I consider and has been programmed into our animal brain, because we are wired for instinct and survival. And so, what we're going to call this is the danger and say no. So, you can feel when something intends to hurt you or is going to be dangerous for you or not good for you. Okay. So, when you get that experience, like for example, you're walking down the street and you see a dog coming toward you. Now, if you're a person that, you know, you don't know how that dog feels, drop into your intuition and find out how you feel. Is it saying no, or is it saying, yes, this is fine? Get that feeling. Maybe you want to experience it in a certain way, in a certain part of you. Get accustomed to how that comes in for you. Pick up that vibe through your senses, and then you need to interpret it through your own system. So that's the what we call the danger or the no vibe. And then there's a third one. And the third one is that which connects us to our higher consciousness and our higher consciousness or our high self. And that's the part of us, our spirit, that's always in the spirit form and it's connected to everything. And at some point in another class, I'm going to talk about the three selves. And it's very interesting to hear what each part has to do with and how it's very important to have them in sync with each other. But that's in an upcoming class. So, the meaning of spirit is our living power, it's our animating principle. Um, the idea of our mystical force. Now, this might be a little sad, but I do want to mention this. When my dog was very ill, and I didn't want to wait till she passed, I had taken her to the vet, and I knew we had to give her the injection. But I felt it was the humane thing to do for her. Because there was just no way that she was going to get better. And she was a sweet little girl. And so I had the opportunity to hold her upper part of her body and her head. She was a little Bichon in my hands, in my cupped hands. And what's interesting, and I will never forget this as long as I live, when the life is finished in a being, in your embodiment, the energy just gets like it's like a vacuum. It comes out, it goes, it pulls out, and there's no more life force or animation to that body. And so when I say our spirit is what keeps us alive, it's our living power, our actual living energy force. And when it is no longer in existence, there's nothing left to that being, so to speak. What's important about this? So Let's shake that off. What it was a beautiful experience for me to understand, to be that up close. Um, and we've all lost someone close to us, so we know what this is about. But this was so accentuated for me. Um, and what is really important to understand is our spirit wants to express our true self. So when we're not listening to our intuition, we're having a hard time expressing our own true self. It's at the highest level of embodiment. And when things don't feel right, we're not being in our true self. In other words, when you have some kind of pains going on in the body or something bothering your mind, your true self is trying to express itself through your high self to connect with you. So it's important to invite that and listen to it. Our spirit, it helps us to choose uh, us to be in sync with the most creative part of ourself. And a good way to begin, or if you're really savvy, is to meet your high self is through meditation or an exercise like what we did, and then to go into the deeper places and invite, or through hypnosis or a journey. Like when I do shamanic journeying, spirit shows up for each person. When we do past life soul regression, it also comes in to speak, to guide, and to also give a person, when they're in that lower frequency where they can absorb or connect with the high self, the opportunity to experience your greatest you, your magnificent you is held in the spirit of you. It, your high self, wants a deeper relationship with you. Always. That's one of the things when I do past life regression, that's what it comes in and talks about with people. It wants you to know it and describe it. Like, what does it feel like for you? Because if you describe it, you go right back into it. Like, I could get really tickled and just go on and on about what it feels like for me. And I know other people that can do that too. And then you're right there. You're right there. Nothing else around you. You're just experiencing your true divine you. And when you're there, when you're uh, communicating with your high self, what is very important is to either ask its name or for you to name it. Either way it goes. But you want to identify it, you want to integrate with it and align with it, and allow yourself to be who you were born to be. And if you do this regularly, you will identify with your high self. It is one of the best practices you can do. And it doesn't take much every day or a couple times a week, but it is a great go-to. If you're just going to go into a meditation because you know meditation is a feel good and it holds opportunity, go in and just have a relationship with your high self. I'm going to bring about some more exercises in other classes to really connect with the high self because I feel it's that important for us. Um, it's more of our personal truth and it empowers us. It really does. You can just feel it when it it comes in and you experience it. You just feel different. You've now gone from this to this. So I have a really super interesting meditation, and it is a meditation to connect with your what we call the Ka body, which is Egyptian, the way they describe the spirit or the high self, and to use these codes while we're doing it. So I'm going to uh, have everybody close your eyes, and I'm going to pull up my little meditation here. So I may go off screen for a minute or cover my screen. Okay. Okay. And so you're going to begin by taking 3 long, slow, deep breaths. And as you breathe in, I'd like for you to feel that there's an essence in the room. And this essence is of deep peace and relaxation. And following your breath in and out, and allowing yourself to go deeper with each breath. And imagine at the very top of your head, this is your crown chakra. You breathe in pure spirit energy. And now feel this divine energy as it fills the space between your brows and your intuitive third eye, as it begins to relax your jaw. And then allow it to flow down to your neck and shoulders, dropping into a comfortable position. And now this divine energy, it fills your chest and your solar plexus and your abdomen. And at the very same time, feel this flowing all the way down each vertebrae, down your spine to the very tip of your tailbone. And now it makes its way into your hips and your upper legs and down your calves and your shins, all the way down to your soles of your feet. And just open those little energy centers at the bottom of your feet and allow this energy to flow. And now imagine in front of you, right in front of you, facing you, is another image of you. It will seem holographic. And what you now see is your energy body. This is your energy body, known as your Ka body, or your higher self, which is in front of you. And it is of illuminated light, and it looks just like you. And now I want you to see the sun off in a distance. It's very illuminated and strong and radiating. And on every inhale, I want you to draw the energy of the sun through your Ka body. Bring it down into the Ka body and watch it as it becomes more illuminated, more lit up, if you will, this Ka body. See it coming from the sun, this light, as it's entering, as it's lighting up. And now draw the light and the energy of the Ka body, your high self that's standing in front of you. Draw it through a cord that connects to your navel of your physical body, like it's a magnet. And just intend this and allow this to happen. You have the cord that connects you to your spirit body, and allow your connection to come into you through your navel, and allowing this illuminating light to circulate through you, through your physical body. All of that beautiful light coming from your energy body through the navel into your physical body. You can open your eyes when you're certain you can feel and sense your high self. So come on back. Some may have gone in deeper than others, but just if you're in real deep, just wiggle your toes, open your eyes, and come on back to where we are. Good. Right. So now we're going to do or talk about a little bit about enhancing your senses, your clair abilities, your clair, CLAIRE, clair abilities. And this is how we perceive our intuition. And there are 8 in all. So I'm going to just run through them quickly. I want you to, just figure out if you do or don't use this particular one. So we all have heard of clairvoyance. It's the sense of visual, outward and inward. And it's like a movie screen in front of you or a, TV screen where you can literally see something in your mind's eye. Okay. And often we dismiss it as imagination, but sometimes it's that information coming through. We see something and we want to, may not want to see it, but we may not give it the regard that we need to. So next time, just be with it for a moment. See what it's showing up. Invite it in. Then there's clairgustance, which is a sense coming through the taste. Sometimes people can taste something in their mouth and they don't know where it's coming from. And it's a hit on something. It's coming through the taste. Then there's clairsalience, which is a smell or an odor that reminds you of something. So, I've had many people say, my mother's favorite recipe was fill in the blank. Let's say chocolate cookies, right? And suddenly, for no reason, you have this faint odor, smells like chocolate cookies. That may be mom trying to talk to you. Clairaudience. And I'm just going to back up to that. I have actually been in situations, and this has actually happened, I'll say, in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, when I walked down the main road of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, used to be a red light district for it's a port where the sailors used to come in long ago, a couple hundred years. When I walk down that road, I often see the call girls hanging out the windows of the old buildings that are there, and they're talking to the sailors. It's almost like being in another time this is happening. But I have been in places where I have smelt death also, where there may have been an accident or somebody had died in an area. And so there's this just what I call a morbid odor, And so that's called clairsalience. Okay, there's clairaudience. It's a keen sense of hearing. And it can be a whisper. It can be something you're hearing, like someone speaking to you. It can be lyrics. I know quite often that um, I will get up in the morning and suddenly a phrase or a song starts playing and it's playing over and over again. And I'm thinking, oh, what's this? And then I have to tune in to hear what is it singing to me. And there's usually a phrase or two in the lyrics that it wants me to pay attention to. And so I think that's really cool when that happens. I love when that happens. Used to annoy me long ago, and now I've learned how to work with it, and really appreciate it for what it is. You may have a sudden ringing in your ear, or sometimes, and this happens to me, and I know other to people too, suddenly one of your ears will just kind of feel like it's getting muffled in a sort of way, like you can't hear as well. It'll just go quieter. Um, or your ears may suddenly become warm. You'll get it's sensations, So keep your keep your ears open for what could happen. Okay, claircognizance. This is, as many people talk about, the gut or just the knowing. They don't even know why. They'll oftentimes say, I'm just getting this. I'm getting a gut feeling, right? Okay. Yeah, Pay attention. That's a super important sensory for you to know that that's where you're hearing your intuition through. Clairsentience. This is felt viscerally. So, before I said, oh, as I was talking, I was getting goosebumps or chills. Yeah, so that's clairsentience. Oftentimes, and I don't think I've ever met somebody that has not had goosebumps. So that's your intuition saying or validating something for you. And if you acknowledge it, if you say to your intuition, I acknowledge this, and there's the goosebumps again, it will bring you more of that. So there it is. There's the validation of what I'm just talking about, right? But we need to be open and we need to trust and we need to accept in. Claire empathy is another one. Now, this is not empathic. And I think sometimes I hear people say, oh, I have this. It's because I'm empathic. Well, that's not what it is. It's actually a sense of emotion when a person's not present. Okay, goosebumps again. Have you ever, and this is not everybody, but have you ever felt somebody be upset and you were not with them? Like you could just hear somebody upset or feeling something. That's Claire empathy. And it's not one of what I'll call the popular ones, but it's happened. Um, and I know for others it has happened too, but I've experienced that myself. Um, Claire tangency. Okay, this is real important. Have you ever picked something up or touched something and received an experience through it, a feeling? It's like you can touch an object or touch someone to connect like a person, place, or thing. So I'll explain to you. This happens to be one of my very strongest. I can put my hands on virtually a lot of things and pick up some kind of information about that. So, which is why working in energy, I can receive information. Now, have you ever touched something and had just a feeling about something? It can happen. So that's called clairtangency. You might practice it. You might just go, pick up something that someone gave to you, pick it up and just quiet yourself and ask, what is it sharing with you? And speak to it because it can communicate. Okay. So I'm going to ask, which of your senses are the strongest out of those eight? Figure out which ones are the strongest. We have the opportunity to use all eight, but some are definitely going to be stronger and more utilized within us. Some people say to me they're not visual people at all. Understandable, but so then you might want to become more visual so that when something does come in, or you do have an image, or you would like to see an image, you have more of an opportunity for that. So it's good to kind of play with this. You can play with it and have a lot of fun with it. We're going to do an exercise at the end that will open up some of these senses for us. Okay. And I have a lot of fun with this particular exercise. So, all right. So this is about listening to your vibration. It's like music when you listen to the music. And I am not deaf, but I can imagine this is very much a person who is deaf must pay attention to vibration much more in order to receive information from it. It connects you to it. So, what I say is put your whole self into that vibration and come into sync with it, into that vibration. It's like, have you ever danced with somebody, a dance partner, and you just feel like you're in step and in sync with that person? Sometimes, and I can't remember the name of this, but this is actually something that is taught, um, where if you want to get into somebody and understand them, and this is used in um, corporate world, I'll say, if a person comes up close like this, then you come up close. If a person comes back, then you move back. If a person, puts their hand on their head like this, you put your hand on your head. Because what that is a mimicry. And what that is you are getting in that vibe, in that energy. Everything is an energy. So coming into sync with it. So there are ways to strengthen your inner voice. And I'm going to just share a little bit about my story because I think it's important and relevant to this. So many years ago, gosh, I'm going to say 35 or something, I've lost count. Um, I built a house with my husband and my 4 children. We built it on this particular land, and the land was very toxic. And I received a lot of well, my whole family received a lot of this toxicity through the water, but simultaneously, it was also a portal into another time. And so I was getting what I call a rude awakening through the portal to awaken me for my second awakening. And I lost my memory. I could not remember how to go places and certain events. Um, there was a lot of loss of memory. I never regained all of it, but what it did is it pushed me to learn how to listen, to rely on my intuition because I had no choice. When you don't have a memory, you have to open up another part of you. Have you ever watched a movie where somebody has amnesia? And I often think that that's the perfect scenario that your high self is saying, now it's time to trust more of your intuition. So, what it did is it opened me to my capabilities, which maybe I wouldn't have opened to had I stayed more in my conscious mind, my practical mind, and not deeply trusting my intuitive self. And when I did, it immediately brought in all of this information and my intuition, and I began to learn so much. And so this is why I believe it's important to share this with other people. It's okay to rely on your memory and information, but I think a lot of what goes on in technology, and one of the things that really bothers me is that particular piece of equipment that sits in a person's house and they say, can you tell me how to get to so and so? Or can you turn on the TV? Or can you do this math equation? Because we're taking away part of our sensory when we do that, when we rely on that kind of technology. We're going to lose our capabilities. And these are our innate, um, we're soulful abilities. And so I think it's very good to practice a lot of this, strengthening all your senses, become more aware, keep your attention and your focus. So if you find your mind drifting, just call it back in. Bring your focus back in. Be aligned within, not your brain and not your emotion. Be aligned into your intuition. Open yourself up to receive those signals within yourself. And one way to do this is to let go of the need to know everything. What's going to happen? How do I do it? You see, it keeps you in that perpetual mind chatter and the sabotage, and it keeps you in one part of the brain. But the other part of the brain is where the intuition and where it's really happening. And that's going to guide you. And that's going to guide you in the right way, in the way that where you should be making decisions from. So let that inner voice speak. Listen to it, validate it again through taking action upon what you hear. Um, and and here's the interesting thing. I'm just going to go back to when I was supposed to go and buy that house, right? And go to the closing. Well, you can imagine how crazy that morning was because then I had to call the realtor and the mortgage company, so on and so forth. Nope, we're not doing it. And even my husband was having a really hard time with it, but I knew it was right. I knew I was being guided not to do it. And it did turn out right. It absolutely turned out right. We found something else and it was the best place for us. We found out some things after that really came to light that made a lot of sense. But in the moment, I didn't have that to rely on to make my decision. So, so what can happen when you do get these hits is that it can actually disturb what's going on in your life or what you were thinking, what you're accustomed to. It really can, depending on the importance of that particular information that's coming to you. Maybe you were getting ready to buy a stock in this, the stock market or whatever, going someplace. I can tell you, oh my gosh, story after story that I know, people's lives being saved because of this information and acting on it. It will not steer you wrong, but you have to know that it's that energy, that information is the right information that's coming into you. So you've got to practice with the small tests because we can be very robotic, accustomed to doing things in a certain way and not following our intuition, which is going to bring us a different way than what we're accustomed to sometimes. So we have to read the signs and the messages and come about it in a different way, but that's all right. Maybe it's trying to teach you something. And so be open to that. So oftentimes intuition does not show up in a billboard while you're driving down the street. It does not tell you, okay, here it is, plain sight. It's very subtle, very subtle. Sometimes it's that little whisper or whatever. And there's many ways I think that the world brings information to get our attention, these subtle energies coming in, but don't override it through your ego. Be honest with yourself. Be honest. That's very important. Um, you don't want to say that, well, I can't do that because of this, or yeah, I'm not, yeah, I don't want to listen to that because I just don't want to trust it. You know, be honest. Yeah, you don't want to trust it. It's a hard one to trust. It was hard to trust to cancel buying that house. It was, but I knew it was the right thing. So you have to be honest with yourself and then whoever else or whatever situation is involved with you. So I could have said, well, I'm getting this information. I could have said this to my husband, but still gone along, right? I was being honest, really honest, blatantly honest, brutally. What we put out as a vibe, very important. So, have you ever tuned into someone? You meet somebody out in the parking lot or in the grocery store, or whatever, right? And you say, hey, how are you? And they, oh, I'm doing good. But somehow you pick up on a feeling, and somewhere it comes in one of those particular senses we just spoke about. And you're tuning into their vibe and you're getting a different feel to that than what they're saying. And I know you've done this because this happens all the time, right? Or somebody may be lying to you, but they're telling you one thing, but you think something else. That's important to pay attention because that is your intuition trying to guide you. This is important. We cannot manifest what we don't believe. So believe it's real. Believe it. Accept it in and say, okay, and I'm going to trust it and I'm going to prove this. And then you're going to prove it more and more to your actual brain side also, so that you can come more into a sync. So both of sides of your brain can be connected to each other. So listen to this, to your spirit. If you're not listening, it's going to become louder and louder. And I love this little example I'm going to share. I was getting some information years ago. Uh, my son was 13, my youngest son, and I always felt that there was no rites of passage for young men in our society. And I just felt I could feel him needing this. And so the feeling was knowing that, and maybe I was actually asking it, maybe I was putting that vibe out, but what came in was I needed to go down to this particular place in town, which was a Native American shop, and they have all kinds of beautiful things, but I didn't know the owner or the person, working there or anything. But it said to me, this voice or this information said, you need to go in there and you need to talk to this person because they're going to have the answer. And I said back to it, are you kidding me? You really want me to go in and talk to somebody I don't even know and tell them all about this problem? I don't want to do this. Now, this is many, many years ago, and I can laugh about it now. And I actually wrote about it in my book because it was such a strong happening. It came to me several times. Finally, I thought, okay, I'm going to give in. I'm going to go down to the shop. All right, I go down to the shop and I got cold feet. I could not talk to the person. And I came back home, but that voice was relentless. It wouldn't leave me alone, and it gets stronger and stronger. I know I'm getting a hot flash now as I'm talking about it because it was just so impactful in my life, but it was so important. And and it wound up being, I'll just tell you this real quick. I wound up going back in and talking to the person. And he said to me, and he's chuckling at me as I'm telling him this, right? And I said, what are you laughing at? And he said to me, you don't know how spot on and right you are coming in here, because what I teach is exactly what your son needs right now. And I thought, oh my gosh, look at the alignment. It was so beautiful. And I was so grateful that, spirit didn't leave me alone. And I wouldn't use the word coerce, but nagged me until I gave in. It's a beautiful thing. So ask internally, which am I acting from? Am I acting from intuition or is it impulsivity? It's very subtle, these two. So impulsivity is usually not good. It's like we get this emotion that kind of comes in and we react to it. We react to it, but it doesn't have our best intentions. It it can take us into pitfalls. It can help us make irrational decisions. We can react from emotion in it. It's known in the marketing industry as impulsive buying. You've got to connect to the emotion, right? So that can be impulsive. But when you're getting the clear vibe through your senses, you can tune into this and you can ask your high self to be clear. I always ask for clarity when I go in to ask a question. I want clarity and I want a positive reaction or a reaction that I can clearly understand so that I can make a decision. I don't want to be left, well, I don't know what that was. That's not a good place to make a decision from. So you can ask yourself, you can tune into your high self, you can do some automatic writing. If it's difficult for you to go into a place, do some automatic writing. That's a great experience to practice to learn how to listen to your high self. Okay, so we're going to move on. I want to talk for a minute about divination and psychometry. So, we've all kind of heard of divination. We all know what this really is. It's when we use something to make predictions. But like tarot card reading. And it's an interpretation. And in that interpretation, there is a margin of error. Everybody has a margin of error because the interpretation must then, the information comes in and you interpret it through your brain. And I often teach to learn how to build your dictionary of, let's see, symbols and things that you're going to interpret through. So it's a little bit also like your dream time. You know, I've often heard people say, I don't know what this dream was about. Okay. So it's not difficult to interpret dream, but you have to, more than not, you have to ask yourself, rather than looking at the symbol, you must ask yourself, what does that symbol feel like? So I'll give you an example. I remember a long time ago, I had a dream about Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was in my dream. And I'm like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, what's he doing in my dream? And so I just asked myself, what does that mean to me? And you'll get a response, you will. And so the dream was eliciting strength. It was about being strong because, he's played a lot of roles about being very strong. And so, okay, that was the perfect way to get that understanding across to me. So when I'm reading the body, and I pick up a signal about something physical in the body, I have to interpret what that is. What does that symbol represent? Now, I don't know everything of what all the symbols represent. I can have a sense of what I think it is, but I may not know exactly. So then I could ask someone, what is that? What would that be? And they can express something, and then it can open up a whole understanding of what that representation is. But if you don't know, or you're not working with someone, if it's your own representation, you have to ask your own self, what does that mean to me? What does that symbolize to me? And we're going to do something in a little bit to kind of practice this. So again, back to this divination. This is about using, again, something to make a prediction. So, this concept of a crystal ball is divination. Okay, we all know that. In The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy went to the guy that was driving the coach along the way, and he was looking in his crystal ball, but he really couldn't see anything. So oftentimes it's to help us understand better a deeper signal or meaning to something, versus intuition is seeing or knowing through your senses. It's a hit. It's information, sudden information coming in that you have no reference to. And I could give you a whole lot of examples of that, but I think you'll understand what I'm talking about. And it's used for guidance purposes. What you do with it is up to you. Psychometry. I don't know if anybody even knows what this is, but this is another part of all of this understanding through intuition. It's a form of what is known as ESP, extrasensory perception. There it is, right? We don't call it ESP anymore, but that's what we called it long ago because it's your senses and it's the perception through your senses, which is characterized by the ability to receive accurate knowledge of the history of something by making physical contact with that object. So before I said, pick something up, um, and see what it says. Um, it's building a relationship with a particular item, holding it, touching it. People pick up crystals. People use crystals all the time to receive information, to receive a particular resonance. Um, So it's one of the clairs, clairtangency, where you put your hands or put your hands on something or you pick something up and now you immediately hear some kind of information. I remember one time, this is a long time ago, I was working with James Van Prague. He uses this in his audience. So when I was working with him, working the audience, I would collect an article that someone brought. Maybe it was an article that their mother had or their sister or whatever it is. And he would uh, ask to hold it. And then he would read information about that and not about just the article, but about whose article it was. Um, so he utilizes that particular clair. When I go different places, I can put my hands on stones and all kinds of objects and hear the information that's coming through. So this is a form of psychometry. Okay, so now we're going to get to the good part. We're going to do a little practice here. I've got two exercises to do. The first one is for listening. So, what does your life need right now? This is what I want you to sit and ask yourself. What does your life need right now? I'm going to run through this first before you actually do it. You're going to ask this 3 times in a row, pausing between each time. And then imagine through your senses, each pause, you're going closer toward the answer. So each time you pause, you're just feeling yourself, you're getting closer to that answer. And the answer comes in multi ways and in multi senses, or multi ways through the senses. And then when you're finished, I want you to draw a symbol that has to do with this. It doesn't matter if you're a great person that can draw or not. Just draw something that is a symbol. And then I want you to interpret it through your senses. Bring that in. What's the experience that you're having of that particular symbol? What does it express to you? What does it add or take away from your life? What does it mean for your life? Because your intuition is bringing information. I'm going to turn my light on and I'm going to go through this again so that, there we go, better. I'm going to walk you through this again, okay? So, based on the question, you're going to ask yourself, so close your eyes, okay? Just take a deep breath in for the moment. And I want you to ask yourself, what does my life need right now? Ask this 3 times in a row, pausing between each time and imagining in that pause, you're moving closer to this answer. You can feel it. And the answer is going to come in some way through your senses. When you're finished, asking this question 3 times and pausing between each one, I want you to draw one symbol, and then I want you to interpret it, but not through your brain, through your senses. What is it expressing to you? What does it mean for your life? So I'll give you a few minutes to do this. I'll give you maybe about 4 minutes. So begin now. Okay. So I think we've probably had some good amount of time here. And you can always go back and revisit this anytime and practice it over and over again. Extend out your time longer to get more in depth with it, and begin to really build your symbology for yourself and get acquainted with how that expresses within you. So now we have another exercise to do. And I think this is kind of fun also. And so there's something called Zener cards. And Zener cards, I think there's 25 or 26 of them. I forget how many now. This is something I have used in my classes for years and years. And it's for developing your extrasensory perceptions. And I've got 5 of these particular cards. Now, there's different symbols on the cards, okay? There's a circle, a plus sign. There are 3 waves, like that. there's a square, and then a five-pointed star. Those are the ones I chose for today. So I'm going to pick one. I'm going to point to it on my side, but you will not be able to see it. And I want through your, don't use your mind, through your senses, what do you get a feel of? Now, when I've taught this in class, we could make half a day of this because you can get really in depth with this. But to begin right now, if you've never done anything like this before, what I would say is that you may not actually see the symbol, but let's say that um, you are you've chosen the sun. I mean, I'm sorry, the circle, and but you're not seeing a circle, you're seeing a sun, okay? Or you're seeing the earth, or you're seeing something else that's round, okay? Or maybe it's a square. Maybe you're seeing your square kitchen table. Whatever it is, you see, you're developing your sense for what that is. So then what that means is you have chosen that particular symbol, but it came in a different picture. That's okay. This is about learning this as you are moving through exploring this particular type of experience. And so this is something you can do by yourself also. You can take and cut up paper, put a symbol on it, and then you can turn them, move them around. It's kind of like the shell game, right? All right. You can practice it with a shell game too. I think that's a lot of fun also. But I think this is more symbolic, and I think it gets you really in tune with your symbols, right? And so you can move them around, or you can have somebody play this game with you, and they can hold it. Play with a partner. I think it's always a lot of fun to do this, and have the person or you place it down on the table, wrong side up or down, on the desk, and then just put your finger on one of them and allow your senses to tell you what it is. Now, this takes some development. It's okay. Nobody's always right. Don't worry if you're wrong and you're way off the mark, but you're going to get pieces that are going to teach you how to develop and bring it in for yourself. And everybody's at a different stage. So there's no right or wrong to this or judgment in this in any way. So let's do it once or twice, okay? So I've got my 5 symbols here, okay? And I'm not even going to look at them, okay? I'm just going to place my finger on one of them. I've got a paper over the top of it, all right? I don't remember what order they're in, and I'm just going to put my finger on it, okay? And I'm going to send that signal to you, all right? And then all you're going to do is you can either draw it or it can, be in your mind or your thought or whatever, okay? But I think it's good to draw it, if you can. But at least allow the information to come through your senses in some way, okay? So let's close our eyes for a minute. Take a breath. I know you're all thinking, oh my goodness, what if I don't get this? What if I can't figure this out? But I don't want you to go there. You can. You are able to. This is innate for you. You know how to do this. This is just remembering how to do this because everybody knows this. This is just opening to this great sensory ability that we all have. So, okay, I'm putting my finger on it. And now I'm transmitting it to you. I'm going to give you about 1 minute to bring in through your senses in some way what this is. Allowing your mind to be clear. So if you're getting the chatter, just allow it to pass out through you like a cloud and just come back to focus on what it is that we're doing. Okay. I'm sure by now we have something. If you don't have anything, go back to this exercise again and practice it again. This is a good practice. It's a little more in depth, but you will begin to see in different ways what this is. So now I'm going to tell you which one it is so that I don't leave you in the dark. And then I want you to begin to think what you got and how that connects to what the image was that I was sending to you. So remember, I said there was a circle, a plus sign, three waves, a square, and then a five-pointed star, right? The particular symbol, and I did not know it, was the three waves. So now this is interesting. It can come in any way to try to explain to you. So it could have come in like the ocean, right? Waves, right? It could have come in like sound waves coming in. It can come in any way that it's trying to tell you it's three waves. So now begin to think about what you might have thought you saw or felt or heard, and how does that connect to this symbol? Interesting. I hope you'll try it again. It's a lot of fun, and it's especially fun with another person. So if you get these five symbols, like a little deck of cards, right? And the person picks out a symbol, and then you begin to get an image or some kind of a sensory in you of what it is. It's a good way to practice. It really is. So, all right. So I hope you'll be able to use these exercises to practice your capabilities, to have a relationship with your higher self. And trust is the most important thing, most important here. Just trust, what you're getting. And then also, one other aspect is that when you put it into action, and what if it wasn't what you were hearing? Don't say to yourself, oh, I can't do this. I'm not good at this, because I've heard many people say that. Don't do that. Just tell yourself that you didn't interpret the signal correctly in the best way and that you want more practice. It's okay. You're never going to be wrong. You're always going to be learning more and more. And that's what this is all about. It's about trusting, and it's about learning how to use these senses for yourself. So we're ending early. Um, and I hope that this was a good opening to learn and to begin to make a better connection and I just hope that you will use these. And there's so many more ways to learn and grow and trust your intuition. Um, and so it would be really good for you to invite in more ways that you can begin to practice this. Ask your higher self, what is it that you can teach me? How can you teach me? And trust me, your higher self will give you ways to practice this. Trust me, it will. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming in today and taking the time to want to learn. This is so good. I'm so excited about this and trusting your intuitive capabilities. Um, so I hope to see you next time. And remember, keep shining your light bright. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank,
Thank you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.